Yo, 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 welcome back to another episode of Nothing Agreed. Back with an old special of Off the Record.
Off the Record's back.
Off the Record is back, where we kind of talk about stuff that we usually don't talk about on the podcast, whether that be other sports or other topics, stuff like that. So kind of like an away from the normal schedule, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So
It's off the record.
off the record, baby. So anything can be said. Well,
That's right.
almost anything can be said, of course.
Yeah, that's fair.
But
Today we're going to bring probably some college football into the podcast. Not a big highlight of ours.
well, not a big highlight of ours, but a very if you take the NFL, it's a very easy step away. Like it's not a big turn of direction.
Nah.
Yeah,
not really.
But
So,
Bleacher Report, if you want to introduce it.
yeah. So after we're recording this on October 20th.
We're
on a
recording this
Sunday.
after the week of Texas, Georgia, LSU, Arkansas,
Alabama, Tennessee,
South Carolina,
Oklahoma.
Oklahoma, games like that.
Clemson, Virginia.
Irrelevant.
But yeah, so we're probably let's want to start in the SEC. I mean, after last night, there are no more undefeated SEC teams, at least within the conference, but also
That's
overall.
not true. Well, in the conference, there's undefeated teams.
Oh, who's still undefeated?
I know LSU's undefeated in the conference. Like teams that can have a loss, but be undefeated in the conference.
No, yeah. Oh, I thought they lost early.
No, I think they're undefeated in the SEC.
Oh,
I remember they pulled up the rankings when Texas was playing Georgia, and I was like, wow, I didn't know LSU was undefeated in the SEC.
Maybe I'm thinking
So-
of a game last year. Okay, regardless, they're undefeated record-wise.
Texas
or
A&M
they're not
is 4-0, LSU is 3-0. So currently they would play in the conference championship.
Well, I mean, we'll see how it goes. We still got, 6 weeks left?
Yeah, there's still a lot of time.
5 weeks left?
Yeah.
Lots of matchups, and we're probably going to be getting into the harder conference games. So,
Yep.
although we've had some good ones, like last night. We can talk about Tennessee, Alabama. Start with that. Over in Knoxville, we had Tennessee upsetting Alabama. I would say, talk about Alabama real quick. Do you like the new DeBoer style? If you're an Alabama fan, are you behind it or?
Honestly, people are going to be mad. Be mad, sure. You can be mad. That's fine because you're coming off Saban, and you're going to feel one type of way. But to be honest, no, I don't think you can be mad or should be mad, particularly because I know DeBoer is taking over a different program than Saban, but some coaches need that first year of buffer. And the SEC, it just means more. And DeBoer is his first year in the SEC, so he's going to learn how much it means. But yes, it is. I think it is a concern that you have the talent you do on Alabama, and you lose back in Tennessee 2 straight times now. South Carolina was a 2-point game, and you were, I think, 20-point favorites in that game. You lose to Vandy.
Yeah.
And then before that, they blew the 24-point lead they had against Georgia. I mean, I know they won it, but blowing that type of lead is also a little bit of a concern. So, yes, there will be concern brewing in Bama.
Well, I think the thing is, and what sucks for DeBoer mainly is he's kind of coming in at a time where all these players are still kind of players Saban recruited. Like if you ask a lot of people, they'll say it in media. You can ask Alabama fans. It's still they still see it as Saban's team.
Uh-huh.
And what sucks for him is he's done fine. I would not say he's done a great job. These last 3 weeks have been awful. With one win that, again, like you said, it should have been a blowout, and they almost lost that game. There is a very real threat of losing that game until the last offensive play by South Carolina. But yes, so he's got this team that he really hasn't put together that much. I mean, I'm sure he was involved behind the scenes.
I don't cut you off, but there shouldn't have even been that South Carolina drama, right?
Well, yeah.
I know the game was close, and Bama scored a touchdown to make it a 8-point game, right? But you can win that game by, I think, 1, which I know is a bad win. But the drama that happened after doesn't need to happen if the receiver who caught it goes down. If he goes down, the clock is running.
Yeah,
South Carolina had, I think, no timeouts. The game was over.
Yeah, no, you're right.
So I'm just like, if I would have told my team, if you get a first to get down, like,
show the theatrics.
When I was watching that game and they scored a touchdown, I said that was the stupidest decision ever because now you're giving South Carolina a 1-possession game still. So
I remember now. I watched that game with my mom back home fall break.
Nice, yeah.
And I even said that. I was like, oh, you probably should have gone down. Now you're giving South Carolina a chance. And
one possession.
And then I'd say she's a casual football viewer. She knows what teams are good and which teams aren't. So she said to me in her own words, "Oh, it probably won't matter. It's South Carolina probably won't score."
Doesn't matter.
They did.
With the way that game was going, yeah. I mean, you
That's
can't
true.
do that.
Yeah,
so.
that's what I'm saying. So you just gotta play clean football at all points. Bad 3 weeks. I feel bad for DeBoer because I do think he is getting a lot of shade and heat that isn't really warranted. But I think they are probably out of the playoff race.
Yeah, I'm a little bit of a soccer buff. So the way I can put it, and maybe many people may not get it if they're not soccer people like me, but when Manchester United was the biggest team in England, right? And Sir Alex Ferguson was winning title after title, and then he stepped down. They've struggled to have a coach since then, right? So it's which is he's considered the greatest soccer coach in that league, right?
Yeah.
Saban is probably considered the greatest, right? I mean, you could maybe argue some coaches, but he's probably the greatest college football coach, right?
I would say so.
So when you're trying to replace someone like that and fill those shoes, the expectations are high, and people just need to lower them just a little bit. So
yeah, again, I do think it just goes back to people had high hopes for this team, seeing the talent that was on it, and he's kind of underperformed with what he's given. But we'll keep our eye on him for the next couple of years if he's still there. But yeah, I mean, they're below Vanderbilt in the SEC right now, so I don't see them going to the playoffs. But we can talk about the other team from that game, the Tennessee Volunteers. They've kind of had a few hiccups these last 3 weeks as well. They had that one loss to Arkansas, which I think that was that at Arkansas? I forget what that game was.
Yes, that was at Arkansas, and I think they blew a 14-point lead.
Yeah.
I know they didn't score any points in the half. Or it was 3-0 at half.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Yeah, but Arkansas came back and won that game.
Yeah, then next week they had a rough game against Florida at home. A game a lot of people thought they were probably going to dominate. They did win. Scrappy
They've
game.
struggled against Florida in their history.
Yeah.
Especially in their recent history. So, but yeah, that game Florida lost, in my opinion, instead of Tennessee winning.
Mm-hmm.
The old Russell Westbrook question.
Yeah.
Did y'all lose this game or did they win it? What?
Well, no, I fully agree. I watched that game as well. I thought Georgia or
Florida should have
Florida had full control of that game.
Yeah.
I thought Tennessee played awful. There's no reason that Florida should have lost that game.
Yep.
Unfortunate for them. It was a good comeback by Tennessee, and then they had a good week this week. So I think if you're a Tennessee fan, you're happy again. You're feeling optimistic. You had a rough win last week, but it's rivalry game. You feel good about it. Then you come in, you got Alabama at home, knock them off.
Yeah, beating Alabama is always good. Nico at quarterback, he's a freshman, so give him some time. He's had some glitz and glamour moments, and he had some trash moments as well, but he's a freshman. So not everyone's going to step in and be a true freshman quarterback. I don't want to, have Clemson bias, but Trevor Lawrence had that great year as a true freshman.
Yeah.
People have those expectations now. Don't do that. They got to adjust to the game. So
they're kids.
Exactly.
So. Younger than us, God.
Sad. That's so sad. When you get to draft classes and recruiting classes, and you see you see Ryan Williams at 17, you're a bum like this. Yeah, it's crazy.
You don't have to call us bums, but
I don't think we're bums, but we're not that. That's crazy.
Well, yeah, that's true. All right. You want to talk about Georgia, Texas?
Yeah, we can talk about Georgia, Texas. I got called crazy by a lot of people I work with, because I am, a writer and stuff, and I was covering the Clemson game, and so we were down in player interviews, and we were talking about Georgia, Texas, and I said, "Oh, Georgia's winning that game. No, I have no doubt in my mind Georgia's winning that game," and I had half the room look at me like I was crazy. One of them was like, "Oh, Texas is going to win by 3 touchdowns. Oh, Texas is going to cover."
Yeah.
Some person said it's going to be a close game, but Texas is going to pull it out. I was like, "You're telling me Texas in a big game, and you have Texas?"
Mm-hmm.
All right, buddy. And Kirby Smart's an underdog. Let me say this. Georgia is becoming the Bama, right? And to me, I'm going back to the NFL here, but it's like, if Patrick Mahomes is an underdog, you bet on Patrick Mahomes. Because if you can get that value, you're going to have a great shot. If Georgia's an underdog, they're going to use it as motivation, and you're going to get that value. Mm-hmm. So then I did do that.
There you go.
That was, to me, the only time I was concerned that Georgia wasn't going to win the game was after the pass interference got overturned, which we can talk about.
Mm-hmm.
But I know we talked before the pod, and you said you didn't see much of it.
No, I didn't really watch this game.
I can explain it to you.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wasn't concerned that Georgia was going to lose a game until it was a one-possession game, and then they immediately drove down and got a touchdown. I was like, yeah, this is out of reach. So my only concern was the Georgia Bama game when Bama had the big lead and then they blew it. When coming out of the second half and then Texas scored a touchdown, I was like, is that going to be this game? You know? Is that going to be a repeat of this? And Georgia's on the flip side. So we'll see.
Yeah, my takeaway from this game, again, I didn't really watch it, but looking at it after the fact to me, I think this is Texas's welcome to SEC moment.
Oh yeah, everyone. Yeah, of course.
You look at their schedule before this game, they played Colorado State 52-0.
I don't think they had their big game was against Michigan, and now playing that game week 2. Who else did they have?
Well, they beat Michigan in week 2. Michigan really didn't look that well good in week 2.
Well, Michigan doesn't look good at all.
That's what I'm saying. I wouldn't call that an impressive
They're challenging
win.
2020 LSU to be one of the worst defending national champions.
I was going to say, is Michigan ranked as of right now?
I think they are not anymore.
Okay.
They've just lost. They were against Illinois, but the AP comes out today and they won't be ranked.
Yeah. Well, they were number 10 at the time. They lost. But yeah, like you said, I don't think that's an impressive win for Texas at all. Then they played some not very good teams, UTSA, UL Monroe, Mississippi State. That's the first SEC team they had on their schedule.
And Mississippi State is actually the worst SEC team this year.
There you go. So then after that, they had the Red River rivalry against Oklahoma.
And when you play a rivalry game, it's going to be like one of those games where there's a lot of tension and blood. So you can see sometimes it is going to be closer, but it was not close at all.
And
Oklahoma.
After this week, I don't think Oklahoma's a good team.
They're not. I think Venables might get fired.
Yeah, I think he was too. We can talk about Oklahoma in a minute. That is a SEC team I want to talk about, kind of similar to this topic. But then, so after Red River rivalry, now we got Georgia loss. So, looking ahead on their schedule, they actually have a very easy SEC schedule. If we're being honest, they go to Vanderbilt after this.
That could be a tough game. I mean, Vandy's been good this year. So.
Okay,
but it's not like they're a supreme team. But
no,
of course, everyone knows they beat Bama, but they're still actually a good, solid team. And you can argue they're 2 or 3 plays away from being undefeated.
That is true.
So.
But that is a team. That is a game. I think I can see Texas
running it out. Yeah.
Then after Vanderbilt, you go back home and you host Florida.
That should be an easy
That's
win.
Another team that I think
I like
you
DJ
should
Lagway for Florida, though, but we can keep moving on.
All right. Then after that, you go to Arkansas. That could be a good game.
That will be, I think, a tough game. Arkansas is not a bad team.
But that is also a game I expect Texas to win. Just based on the skill.
Yeah, they're going to be favorites.
Then you go back home.
They should be favorites every single game.
Yeah.
Going through this.
Then you go back home, host Kentucky.
That should be an easy win.
Mm-hmm. And then to end it all out, you go over to College Station, Texas A&M.
That's a tough game.
And that's the game I think we really will see. I think we'll see this Texas team. That's what we'll see if they're ready for this like postseason run that everyone's been talking about. Because if we can, I don't have Texas A&M's schedule right now, but if Texas A&M's undefeated going in that weekend too, yeah, that's a huge weekend.
A&M plays LSU at home next. I have the LSU schedule up.
Okay. So we'll see.
I looked at Arkansas as well, but A&M is actually the current best team in the SEC.
Yeah.
Which is kind of funny to say.
I mean, they're playing pretty well.
Considering that there's all these good teams in the SEC, they're actually one of the 2 undefeated. But they play LSU at home. In my opinion, they should be the favorites.
Mm-hmm.
Texas A&M should be the favorites, even though LSU is also undefeated and higher ranked. They should be the favorites in terms of the spread, or it should be close. They play Carolina on the road, which they should be the favorites. They play New Mexico State at home, Auburn at Auburn, so it's a tough game because you're at Jordan Hare, and a tough game at Willie B. But still games they should be the favorites, and then they have Texas.
Yeah,
so Texas is their true. They have LSU, and if they can knock off LSU, then you go through that slate, and if you get to Texas, you're a 0-loss SEC team, right? And let me say this. When I looked at Texas's schedule after the Michigan game, right, because they dominated Michigan, this is going to be a hot take as well, but I said I thought Texas A&M was actually going to be a harder game than UGA. I think because if you think about in terms of the environment, I know you're playing UGA, which is the powerhouse, but Texas A&M is, of course, I think going to be a bigger rivalry game than Oklahoma. It's the first time they're playing in 10 years. It's back in the SEC. You're back at Kyle Field.
Yeah,
it's going to be a tough game, and that's what I predicted. And I did say UGA was going to win now, right, or before the game by then. But when I'm looking at week 2, I was like, that's going to be their true last game. I think could be that breaks them.
Yeah.
Know? So we'll see. I think Texas A&M they're a solid football. I mean, they're a solid football team. If you're undefeated in the SEC now, yeah, you're a solid football team. So
yeah. Real quickly, I just wanted to say I think the team that's kind of feeling that what's it called? conference switch the worst though is got to be Oklahoma.
Yeah, obviously.
They've come into this SEC conference, and from what I've seen so far, all they've proven is they were not ready for this.
Yeah, let me say this. The mantra of Oklahoma I've grown up on, and if y'all don't know, I'm 21 years old, but the mantra I've grown up on for a decade and a half, it feels like 15 years, is, okay, we'll give up 49, we'll score 52, and we'll beat you 52-49. Okay, we'll give up 45, we'll score 63, right? So when Venables comes in, he brings that defensive side, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it feels like it's just flipped. But then sometimes they don't even have the defensive side.
Mm-mm.
So, but I mean, I don't want to. Actually, I want to take that back. I feel like they do have moments where they look good on defense, but that offense is horrible.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So little identity crisis.
I'll be saying this: Venables, where will you be defensive coordinator next season? Right. So,
Yeah.
I think he might get the boot, particularly because since '97, Oklahoma has had 3 double-digit losses at home. Baylor in 14, Ohio State in 16. Tennessee was a 10-point loss, which was this year, and now it's another double-digit loss at home to South Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
That is concerning that they've had 4 double-digit losses at home since '97, and 2 of them have come this season under the Brent Venables era. So that is concerning.
Yeah.
So,
all right.
Yeah.
Well, we can hop out of the SEC. That's a wide open race for that conference championship as of right now, I would say.
yeah, I would say Texas, Georgia, LSU, A&M. Tennessee still in there. So those 5 teams, I think it's going to go down to those 5 teams to become 2.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty wide open at this point in time, I'd say.
Yeah, I think Bama's not going to be in there.
No, they already have 2 losses.
Yeah, they're done.
Both in division. They're definitely
done.
done. So let's take a look at the Big Ten real quick. I mean, not much.
The number 1.
Yeah, not much to say besides Oregon and Penn State have been great. Ohio State as well. They've had to play Oregon. That's why they have a loss. So.
Call me crazy.
Let me hear it. Do you think they're going to the conference championship?
Ohio State's the best team in the Big Ten.
They could.
I'll say that. I'm going to keep that.
I do think
I'm going to ride that through. I know they lost to Oregon.
They should have won that.
I think they should have won that game.
They should have won that game.
And I, as someone who was rooting for Oregon, I think they should have won that game. Penn State, to me, has had too many scares. But the one thing that I can say really helps Penn State is when they play Ohio State, they play
in a
them
few weeks.
They play them at home.
Yeah.
And that will be a major change. I think if that game's in the shoe, I think that's a double-digit win for Ohio State. I won't lie.
Yeah.
But at Beaver, yeah, at Penn State, you'll have a close game, and honestly, they could win that one.
How do you like Indiana in this kind of conference race
is
right
a sleeper, the biggest sleeper in college football. But I guess they're not sleeper anymore because they're 7-0 and everyone's kind of giving attention. But if you look at their upcoming schedule. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. I know it's Washington at home, Michigan State on the road, Michigan at home, Ohio State on the road, and then Purdue at home.
Jesus. Washington at home, Michigan State on the road,
Michigan at home, Ohio State on the road, Purdue at home. Right?
Yeah. That's
okay.
It.
Yeah. So 7-0. Sorry.
Yeah.
They're 7-0, and the only game they should lose, right? If you're on paper, should lose is Ohio State. You're on the road in the shoe. You're playing the Big Ten, probably going to be challenging for the Big Ten championship. You don't have an Oregon on there, right? So you're good there. If they go and beat Ohio State in the shoe, which I don't think will happen, but if they do, that offense is looking really good.
Oh, then they'll be in the division conference
championship. They should beat Washington, especially with that Washington defense.
Yeah.
They should beat Michigan if you can stop the run,
mm-hmm.
right? They should beat Michigan State, although I think going into Michigan State can always be a tough game.
Mm-hmm. Purdue
is always a team that upsets teams, but this year Purdue looks bad.
Yeah.
They look bad. Indiana should be on paper should be a 1-loss conference team. They should be an at-large bid to the conference or to the NCAA playoff. They should be.
Yeah, I could definitely see them getting a low seed if they finish with 1 loss for sure.
100%.
And like you said, if they somehow beat Ohio State, they'll probably be in that conference championship.
They'll be in the conference championship. They may not win it, but if they go to the conference championship undefeated, that's an auto lock to the playoff.
But yeah, out of these 4 teams, though, I think it's it's going to be these 4.
It's got to be. I mean, I don't know. I think lower than those 4 teams. I think Illinois is in there.
I don't think
I don't know. Illinois looks good, but I don't know. They won't be good enough.
We can look at their schedule real quick. See
who's lower than Illinois? on the
I don't know.
on the
Yeah, Illinois plays Oregon next week, so
yeah, that'll be a good game. I know that's next week, and I know it's actually at Oregon.
Yeah,
So,
if they win that, then we can
but
revisit
if you go back
this.
to the Big Ten standings, who's lower than Illinois?
Wisconsin,
yeah.
Iowa, Washington.
Those teams won't.
Michigan.
Yeah, those teams.
To me, it's a four team race. Really, we'll see how Ohio State Penn State goes. I think
that will determine who
if
makes
Penn
the conference
if
championship.
Penn State wins that game, Ohio State's out.
100%. It's two
Yeah.
losses. Yeah.
Yeah, no,
But
you're out.
that to me determines. Honestly, unless Indiana gets an upset, I'm assuming Ohio State's going to beat Indiana. That game will determine who goes to the conference championship versus Oregon. I don't think Oregon will slip up, but this is the college football, and that's what's amazing about the sport is upsets happen.
Yeah,
So,
I agree. I'll keep Indiana around there, but to me, it's going to be between Oregon,
Yeah.
Penn State, or Ohio State.
I think we should quickly talk about the ACC.
Very briefly, there's
Um,
like 2 teams in there.
No, there's not
Or
two
3,
teams.
sorry.
There's actually 4 that can make it. There's Duke, SMU, Miami, Clemson, and my I think the top 4.
Duke's
right?
already got a
Or
loss.
Pitt. I think
It's
Pitt's
Pitt.
in there.
Pitt's still undefeated
Pitt's
in
undefeated,
conference.
but if you look at Pitt's upcoming schedule, it's tough.
It is
I know they play Clemson at home, which is good
for them.
But I think they do also still have to play.
They play SMU at home.
Yep.
They have to go play Louisville at home.
They
Which,
play Louisville on the road.
no, at Louisville.
Yeah, at Louisville. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Louisville on the road, and then they play.
They play Virginia at home
Virginia's a
and
win.
Syracuse at home.
Syracuse could be a scary
and,
one,
and
but
Clemson at home.
they should beat. In my opinion, they could lose Louisville. Louisville's a tough game. Louisville looks decent in the conference. I think they should have beat Miami, but
I think they should have as well.
I think I'm going to say this. Cam Ward looks great. I think Miami's defense will unfortunately bite them in the butt because that team should have had 2 losses by now, if not 3. Virginia should have been a loss. Cal, they came back, so congrats to them, but their last touchdown was also should have been a flag for a illegal man downfield.
Mm-hmm.
But they probably could have scored anyways. But still, I think Cal blew it. And then in my opinion, Louisville should have beat them. That Cam Ward fumble was a fumble. If we want to talk about it or not, at first I thought it wasn't. But if you look at the side angle from the top, he loses it first, and then it goes forward. And from the side angle from where his chest is, it looks like it's going forward. But from that top angle, he definitely loses the football. So, in my opinion, Clemson beats. If Clemson has 2 hard road games, which is Virginia Tech and Pitt, they should not lose their home games because they're really good in Memorial Stadium. They have Louisville at home, they have Citadel at home, and they have Carolina at home. Only game that should be tough at home, in my opinion, I think they can beat Louisville by double digits, should be Carolina because it's a rivalry game. Then you have Pitt, and then you have Virginia Tech, and those should be 2 tough games.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, outside of the SMU, whoever wins SMU, Pitt, the loser, that's probably getting disqualified. We might have it might be hard. We might have 3 undefeated ACC teams.
I think SMU beats Pitt.
I do too.
That's my pick. That's my. They will
Well,
be underdogs.
I guess Pitt also has to beat Clemson, but so Pittsburgh's got to beat SMU and Clemson to go to the ACC championship. I don't know how easy that would be for them. You look at Miami; their schedule's pretty easy from here on out. I don't see them really foreseeing any challenges until the ACC championship, unless they, like you said, that defense has not looked great.
Mm-hmm.
But if any team at this point was going to knock them off in season, it was going to be Louisville. Did not get the job done, so Miami will probably be up there. But it's probably going to sound biased regardless. But when we talk about Clemson, they should also be there.
There's no reason they shouldn't. Their
There,
offense
exactly.
has been much better since Georgia. Their defense is the concern to me, especially their secondary. Just because if you look at the Virginia game, they won 48-31. They gave 21 points in the 4th quarter. I mean, that's inexcusable.
How many, again, I didn't
Depth.
really watch much of the 4th quarter. Were there a lot of starters playing?
It became bench players to start the 4th quarter.
Okay, it's not that concerning. Then.
But it was 2 major blown coverages. Literally right after the 4th quarter started, it was a 40-something yard pass to Malachi Fields, busted coverage, and then their last touchdown was like a 60-yard touchdown on busted coverage.
Okay,
Like two
well,
wide open.
again, if it's the backups, it's not super
But it makes a
alarming.
game where Clemson should have. They shouldn't have 48, but they should have had 38-41. It makes it where they should have won 41-20 or 17. Now look much better for Virginia. So
Yeah,
that's a
true.
concern to me.
Again, it's the backups. I'm not that worried. But we can go ahead, transition over. Let's take a look
Big
at
12.
the Big 12. You
Yep.
want to take a look at the Big 12?
That's the last major conference.
Yeah, I guess.
It's not a I guess. I mean,
Yeah,
it really is.
we'll talk about that in a minute. Iowa
State
State or
escaped UCF.
BYU
Um,
or Kansas State.
BYU still undefeated, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they beat Oklahoma State, which was a scary game because they were losing at half, but
Yeah, BYU and
got
Iowa
the
State
job
are
done. And then I
still
know there's
undefeated.
Kansas State is still ranked.
Yeah, but they've
Um,
got a conference loss.
They had a conference loss. I'm trying to remember who they lost to on the top of my head. I think it was BYU.
Can take a look right now.
Didn't they get smoked by BYU? Or not smoked. but-
Yeah,
Yeah.
38-9.
Yeah, well, that was right. Yeah, I
Yeah.
remembered right. Okay, yeah. So they did get smoked by BYU.
Yeah, so
I couldn't. I know it was impressive that maybe I named Indiana's schedule off the top of my head. Could not name you BYU's schedule immediately off the top of my head. But to me, I think BYU looks good. Iowa State to me looks better, which is crazy to say because UCF gives them a run for money. But UCF this season, good
Not
against
it.
winning teams, bad against losing teams. So yeah. That's how it's been. We can touch up on the Big 12, but right now I think projected, of course, is BYU to win the chip. I think it might be Iowa State, but
Let's just move on to the
let's move on to the
playoffs.
playoff to close us out.
Yeah, because I want to sit up here.
Because I have yapped for a long time.
Well, I want to ask you on this podcast. I've talked to people about this.
Freaking do it.
We were just talking about the Big 12. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of the conference winners get the first round bye.
They scrapped that for next season.
Okay.
So this is the only year that's a thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So right before this season started, they were like, "That's a stupid idea," and then they scrapped it.
Okay.
So yes, your idea will be in favor next year, which is I think is also good. Because I think if you're a 2-loss team that somehow makes the conference championship and you win it, I think you should have an argument to get in.
Mhm.
But I don't think you should have a first round bye.
Exactly.
So-
To me, this expansion for the playoffs is just more of an opportunity to allow more teams to get in. I still think you should use the same ratings and rules when you're selecting which teams are in what position. Like I think the 4 best teams in the country decided by the committee should have a bye. You can do that based on the eye test. You can do it based off record. You can do a mix off whatever the committee wants to use, however they've been doing it in the past. But the best 4 teams should have the first bye week. And it kind of doesn't look that way much anymore. But been on not on here, but I've been saying a lot early on that with all these SEC teams, they look super good. They have like 1 loss to other good SEC teams. I don't see why a Big 10 or a Big 12 champion should have a first round bye. If we're being completely honest, I don't really see or Big 12, sorry. I don't really see why the ACC champion should also have a first round bye when those teams had considerably easier schedules to get to those. I get it. I get the fact, and I like the fact with the expansion that would allow those teams to then make the playoffs, but I still think you have to give those good teams, even if they're all from one conference, those byes because they've earned it.
I think if the ACC champion goes undefeated and the Big 12 champion should go undefeated, they should get buys.
Okay,
Undefeated
I
team.
do agree with that. If
Maybe if you have a bad loss, you can argue that, hey, Georgia has 1 loss, and let's say Georgia has 1 loss and another team has 1 loss, then yeah, I'll probably put Georgia over them. They did change that, so yes.
I think this would probably be the best way for me to explain this, right? You have that whole controversy with Georgia getting in over FSU, or not Georgia, Bama getting in over FSU.
Yep.
When it was still the 4
Because it
team.
means more.
Yeah, and FSU went undefeated, did everything right to get in, lost their quarterback, got shafted, and we saw, it was smart for them to leave him out. They weren't going to do anything.
Mhm.
They got destroyed by Georgia. But with this new thing, I do think that FSU team for their undefeated season, they should have deserved that 4 seed. But then now you could have given Bama the 5th seed, and I think that would have been fair. But
For the new 12-team playoff?
yeah, for the new 12 team. But like you're saying, if an ACC team or a Big 10 team goes undefeated, I do agree they should be, and they're one of the only 3 or 4 undefeated teams in the country.
To stay consistent, then yes, I kind of have to agree.
Yeah.
Because I was a proponent of, I think Bama should get in over Florida State because Florida State looked bad. They did not look good. They were not going to be a good team, and we saw that.
I get why they did
And
it that
if
year.
argue with a wall if you want to say Florida State puts up a fight against Michigan. They don't. They don't put a fight against that Michigan team.
No.
So Bama did. Florida State would have got ran over.
They did against Georgia.
They struggled against Louisville.
Yeah.
When Brock Glenn was in there, they struggled against Louisville. So.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that. I didn't know that this is only a 1-year thing.
Yeah, I remember reading a headline that they scrapped it, so I'm going to go off my memory and me talking about it and saying that was.
Not wrong.
Although, Before we get, let me just say this real quick. 12-team playoff. People think there's gonna be less controversy. There's gonna actually be controversy still.
There's gonna be
because
so much more.
especially when it comes they get rid of because the champions that we see right here, that is technically an undisputable way to give off buys, right? Oh, they're a champion, they get a buy. That's undisputable. Now if you get rid of that, you have controversies between 4 teams of who gets the buy, particularly whoever the 4 is and probably whoever the 5 is. And then you have controversy between whoever the 12, 13, 14 and who misses out. So then you're going to have more controversy. So
Yeah, because I don't know the exact wording, but is it at least this year, I don't know if they're doing it next year, but the 12 spots reserved for like the best power conference team or something.
something like that. I don't know if that's true, but
I don't know how the 12 seed works off the top of my head.
I think it's just at large.
But it's let's go through the projection. So this is a article from Bleacher Report. It came out late last night after all the games.
I don't know. Did it come out after the Texas game?
Yeah, it came out like 12 hours ago.
Okay, because I think it's a projection, but we'll go through it.
It's a projection.
Texas, so.
Yeah, they think they still have Texas as their SEC champion. It's a 1-loss SEC team that should win the rest of their games. They could be back in the SEC championship with a rematch against Georgia. I don't think it's crazy to put them there. I don't think it'll happen, but I could see why. But they have Texas at number 1 for the SEC champion. They got Oregon at number 2 for the Big Ten champion. I was about to say, do these matter? Like, is the number 1 seed always the SEC champion, or can these switch?
No, it can be switched.
Yeah, I think if Oregon's undefeated at the end of the season, I don't care
the champions go off the 1 through 4, and the way they rank them is off the poll.
Off the poll?
Yeah. So if you're a SEC champion and you're number 3 in the poll, and you're a Big Ten championship and you're 4 in the poll, then that's 1, 2, and you flip them. The Big Ten's 3, and then the SEC champion's 4. Then it would be flipped.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does
that make sense?
Not really, but
let me show you real quick. So Texas is 1 on the AP, and Oregon's 2 on the AP.
Yeah.
If Oregon was 1 on the AP and Texas was 2 on the AP, and they both won the conference championship, just whoever's higher on the AP
Oregon
gets the higher seed.
1.
Whoever's higher on the AP poll gets the higher bye.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. Yeah, so that makes sense. So but I think if Oregon stays undefeated, they should be the 1.
Yeah, that will happen.
Yeah,
that's probably an argument.
Yeah, they got for the 3rd seed, they have the ACC champion as Miami. Don't hate that. It's a hot team, but I don't think they win the ACC championship. Probably.
But let's go with what they have.
Probably bias, so whatever. Number 4, BYU for your Big 12 champion. We already talked about that. If they're undefeated, I feel like that's deserved. If they lose 1 game, I don't think they should be that high, but it is what it is. We have it for this year. So right now they have Georgia ranked at number 5. That's a team that they could easily have a bye week. They have them playing Boise State as right now your 12 seed.
Yep. Go through all the games, and I will go on my 20 billion minute rant.
All right. Well, yeah. All right.
I'm gonna keep it quick though.
Okay. Well, we got numbers right now. They have Ohio State is the 6th seed. Excuse me, playing number 11 Clemson. Don't have anything bad to say about that really either. Very possible. Right now they got number 7 Penn State playing number 10 Iowa State. Also don't really have much to say about that. And then number 8 Tennessee, number 9 LSU. I don't know I don't know if Tennessee or LSU will be on here by the end of the year. That's my thing.
Okay.
Most of these other teams I can see besides maybe Iowa State as well.
Let's just go through this like this is the truth. Listen, let's just go through this, right?
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Here's my issue with the 12-man playoff. Boise State at Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
I think Georgia wins that. You can argue Georgia wins that by 40.
You can swap it with Texas. Probably the same result.
Exactly. Ohio State Clemson. I think Ohio State wins by 2+ touchdowns.
Yeah.
Won't lie.
You also have to remember all of these games are on the high seeds campus as well.
That's what I'm
so these
saying.
are all home games for them. Yeah.
Penn State, Iowa State. Penn State wins that at home. The only game I think you can argue where the lower seed beats the higher is LSU at Tennessee, and I think even Tennessee can win that game because it's at home.
Yeah.
So, call me crazy, but I mean, yeah, on paper it's gonna look like the higher seeds are gonna win, and of course college football, so the lower seeds can win, but I think it's got to be a meltdown for one of these higher seeds to lose. Seriously, I think the only game you can argue is Tennessee at LSU at Tennessee. I think it's gonna be a meltdown if Penn State loses to Iowa State. I think it's gonna be a meltdown if Ohio State loses to Clemson. It's gotta be a definite meltdown if Boise State beats Georgia, right?
Yeah.
So that's my thing with the 12-man playoff. Is I argue that, the 12 seed before would be like like one of those BYU's, but they're count now Big 12. But James Madison would sneak in there, or UCF, stuff like that, and they go to play an SEC team like Bama, Georgia, Texas at 5. They're gonna get smoked. They're gonna get smoked.
I mean, that's just college football.
Yeah,
You
and give them a
can't-
chance, but it's gonna be like, let's just turn this on. First quarter, it's 21-0. Who's surprised?
Yeah, but like, what can you do about it?
Exactly, right?
Like, do you just want to do basketball and make it a 64-man bracket? Then everyone's got a fair chance. I mean,
No, you can't do that either
can't.
because that's way too many games.
it's just it's
That's
college.
not football.
It's college football.
Yeah, that's not football. And I understand why people. I pleaded for an 8-man playoff. That's what I wanted. That the one doesn't get a bye, and then you give an 8-man playoff, 1 through 8, because the 8 can be like your 1-loss Bama, and that can give a good run, right? And then your 7 and 6 can be a 1-loss. Well, usually it'll be like your 8 to 1-loss ACC team, and then 7 and 6 SEC team, stuff like that. So that's just me.
We'll see.
I know
Again-
I'm going off and going wild.
Well, no, you're fine. To me, a lot of these teams in this matchup right here, there's a good amount of these teams still have to play each other in the season
Yeah.
and in their conference championships.
a
So,
lot can change, but if we're going like this is the testament,
yeah.
and that is true, yeah.
But I also feel very strongly this will not be the final result.
I don't. Yeah,
I think we will see new teams on here. I think we'll see some of these teams drop off.
I think you can argue that all 4 champions in that list cannot be champions.
Oh, absolutely.
You can argue that.
Yeah, no, I don't think Texas will win it. After that showing, who knows? They could.
You never know.
figure it
Yeah.
out. Out of all of these, I would say Oregon's probably got the best chance to win their conference as of right now. Just because they beat Ohio State, and Ohio State's got to go play Penn State. That's a game Penn State could very much win. Ohio State's a 2-loss team. They're not going to that conference championship
Yes.
for a rematch.
But if Ohio State plays them, I got Ohio State in the conference championship, and I think that out of all 4 of those teams, I think Miami's the best shot at the ACC, at the champion.
See, I really don't. Again, call it the bias, but Miami just has not looked good.
They haven't, but their offense has, and
That's true.
they just have the Oklahoma mantra I talked about earlier. So
Yeah, I
all
mean,
their games will outscore you. That's all you need.
we'll see what happens, but yeah.
Now let's go through, right? Let's us two come with a consensus about who we think's gonna win, and then let's do a little like predicted bracket to just finish out this episode.
Okay.
So, Boise State, Georgia. We both are gonna have Georgia.
Yeah.
Ohio State, Clemson. I think I'm gonna have Ohio State.
Well, I'll pick Ohio State.
Okay. Iowa State, Penn State. I'm picking Penn State.
Yeah, I would as well.
Okay. Tennessee, LSU.
I'd take LSU.
Yeah, I'll take LSU as well.
Okay.
Okay. Now, I kind of agree with that. I think LSU would actually beat them. I
I
think
do
it's
as
the only game
well.
where you can argue that. But
I don't.
all right, so I
haven't
think
seen it.
now it's the high seed plays the lowest, and then it goes like that.
That's how they're doing it. It's not preemptive like
Is
the
it
NFL.
preemptive?
I don't know.
It
I
might be
honestly don't
I think
know.
it is preemptive. So,
Regardless.
do they have the article where they
Nah,
argue that or no?
I don't think so.
Okay. So, so if we go through and we
Here
pick
we go.
those teams.
Oh, they have it. It's like this. So, it doesn't really say.
Yeah.
Let's just pretend like it's highest plays lowest.
I don't think it is like that though.
No, okay.
So,
Honestly, now I'm thinking back to playing college football 25.
They
I
don't do it
think-
like
I
that.
don't think they do
They
it
don't-
like
they
that.
don't do it
I think
like
it's preemptive.
yeah.
Okay.
All right, so they have it right here. Number 1 plays the winner of 8-9.
8-9, yeah, that makes sense. So
So then it'd be Texas.
versus LSU.
LSU.
That's a game Texas should win.
Texas wins that, okay?
Yep.
Then they have number 4 that plays 5-12. Then
4
have
plays
BYU play
5-12.
Georgia.
Yeah, that's a game
Georgia
Georgia
wins
wins.
Yeah. Okay. Number 2 plays 7-10. So Oregon plays
Penn State.
Penn State. I think Oregon wins that.
I do as well.
Okay.
And then Miami would play
3.
Ohio State.
I think Ohio State wins that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So now we have Texas plays the 4. 1 plays 4, and then 2 plays 3.
Well, no, because so Texas would play Georgia again.
I know, but what I'm saying is the matchup of whoever played 4.
yeah.
That's what it would be like.
So
we
then in the Texas Georgia rematch,
why do I want to say Texas? I want to say Texas.
I would take Texas. I don't think they did not look good last night from what I saw, but
Hmm.
I don't think they're a bad team. I'm taking
It
Texas.
of course depends on the rest of the season, but why do I want to pick Texas?
I'm taking Texas.
All right, we'll do it. I feel like Georgia's gonna. I don't know. It's a tough one to call. I'll go with Texas because just right now my heart is saying that Texas will get revenge.
And I also
But-
hate Georgia.
Yeah, and then we have 2-3, which is Oregon, but Miami beat Ohio State, and I think Ohio State beats Oregon.
Ohio State beats Oregon?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and here's the rematch. I guess.
I think. Oh, but then I'm picking the two losers of the rematches to win.
Yeah, I think Oregon wins.
Yeah.
Again,
Okay, but I have Ohio State.
that's fine. I think it's Texas, Oregon.
Okay, I think my brain is saying Ohio State, Georgia, so I'll go with Ohio State, Georgia.
Okay, so I'll take Texas, Oregon, and I take Oregon to win it all.
I'll take Ohio State to win it all.
All right, so it's a Big Ten regardless.
Yeah.
All right, all
Crazy.
this SEC shit doesn't even matter.
And I think part of me saying Georgia I think is going to lose is because I don't think they're the best complete team.
I don't. They've had their hiccups this year.
Exactly.
They've had poor showings against bad teams.
And they have the number one curse. So,
That's true.
which is the team that is number one at the start of the year. I think in the last 21 years has won twice.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. My big thing is there's been multiple moments throughout the year they've not looked good. They've had poor losses to bad teams. They've had slow starts against teams that they probably shouldn't have slow starts against. It doesn't look the same. Again, we're saying all this just for them to go crazy in the playoffs. It won't matter, but right now I don't think they have what it takes to.
I mean, Oregon's had some hiccups
finish it
too.
all.
So
Yeah, it's football, but
yeah. All right.
I like what I've seen from Oregon. They've played more complete games.
Do it.
in my
That's our
opinion.
college football rant with the playoff. So
Thank you for joining us.
that was an off the record, just absolute going crazy. I was going crazy on ranting about the college football playoff and other teams. So yeah, we usually don't talk about college football, but as
If
you
you-
see,
if
maybe
you-
I know a little bit about
I
it.
mean, if you want to hear more about it, let us know. We'll do some more content.
Let
like
us
this.
know, baby.
That's why it's here. It's off the
Hell
record.
yeah. And off the record, of course, we'll come with you with more different topics as well. So,
Yeah.
and I was gonna ask y'all. I'm gonna have y'all. I'm gonna ask my friend DM personally, and we can have some topics to talk about.
So leave some
So.
leave some suggestions as well.
Sir, that will be another off the record here for Nothing Agreed. Thank y'all for listening, and peace.